Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Cadet Second Class Rosalind Carlisi. It is my privilege to welcome you to the 26th Annual National Character and Leadership Symposium. This session is made possible by the first graduating class from the United States Air Force Academy, the class of 1959. Will the members of the class of 1959 please stand and be acknowledged for your key role in paving the way for the following generations. Additionally, NCLS would not be possible without the support of our flagship supporter, the class of 1973, the class of 1974, the class of 1993, the Association of Graduates, the United States Air Force Academy Endowment, the Falcon Foundation, and the Muse Educational Foundation. Thank you for your generous contributions. Ladies and gentlemen, after this short video, please welcome the 18th Chief Master Sergeant of the United States Air Force, Kaleth O. Wright.
I'm Gary, you're Julius. Let's get some particulars and just get this over with, all right?
Particulars?
Yeah.
No matter what I tell you, you ain't gonna never know nothing about me.
Hey, listen, I ain't running any more of these 3-a-days, okay?
Well, what I got to say you really don't want to hear, because honesty ain't too high up on your people's priority list, right?
Honesty? You want honesty? All right, honestly, I think you're nothing. Nothing but a pure waste of God-given talent. You don't listen to nobody, man. Not even Doc or Boone. Shiver push on the line every time, man. You blow right past them. Push them, pull them, do something. You can't run over everybody in this league. And every time you do, you leave one of your teammates hanging out to dry. Me in particular.
Why should I give a hoot about you? Huh? Or anybody else out there? You want to talk about a waste? You the captain, right?
Right.
Captain's supposed to be the leader, right?
Right.
You got a job?
I have a
you
job.
You been doing your job?
I've been doing my job.
Then why don't you tell your white buddies to block for Rev better? Because they have not blocked for him worth a plug nickel, and you know it. Nobody plays, yourself included. I'm supposed to wear myself out for the team? What team? No. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look out for myself, and I'm going to get mine.
See, man, that's the worst attitude I ever heard.
Attitude reflect leadership, Captain.
Morning. Well, first, let me say how honored I am to be here today. Thank you, General Severia, Chief Boyer, and the rest of the USAFA and NCLS team for inviting me and my teammates out. And thank you to all of you for attending. It looks to me like this is going to be a great conference, my first time experiencing NCLS, so I'm really looking forward to all the wonderful speakers that we have lined up today. Remember the Titans was a movie that was made in the year 2000. And it's my all-time favorite movie. I'm a huge Denzel Washington fan, but it's really my favorite movie. I was teaching PME at the time. It's my favorite movie because of this scene. This image, it has been burned into my memory. If you haven't seen the movie, you should really check it out because it's just laden with lessons on leadership. Probably none more important than this one right here. This idea that attitude reflects leadership. That your organization, your office, your squadron, your brigade, your battalion, your company will go as you go. That you're responsible for setting the tone, for setting the pace, for setting the culture, for setting the environment within your organization. I get to experience this live. I travel about 300 days a year. Anywhere we remotely might have airmen, I try to get out and see them. So I get to go to a lot of organizations. And normally when I enter into an organization, the first touch point is with the commander, the first sergeant, the chief, the organization's leadership. And it goes one of two ways. Chief, let me tell you how bad it is here. Let me tell you how hard it is. Let me tell you how challenging things are. Let me tell you how much it sucks. Let me tell you how bad we have it. What I know in my mind, what I hear is, yeah, wah. And typically, when I go out and see the airmen from that organization, what do you think they say? Wah, Chief, let me tell you how. The second way that it goes is something like this. You know, Chief, it's tough out here. We're at a GSU, we're isolated, but let me tell you about some of the things that we're doing to make life better for all of our airmen. Let me tell you how we're working with our partners to get around some of these challenges or so on and so forth. And let me tell you about the great airmen that we have in this organization. And what do you think happens when I go out on the base and visit those airmen? Yeah, same thing. Chief, it's tough out here, but let me tell you about some of the wonderful things that we're doing. So I'm telling you, this is an extremely important concept that I think we all should take heed to, that your attitude is a reflection, the people's and your organization's attitude is a direct reflection of your leadership. I'd like to take just a minute to tell you about me. And I typically don't like talking about myself during these types of presentations, but the reason that I want to talk about my journey is because many times we see chiefs, chief master sergeants of the Air Force, generals, senior leaders from whatever capacity, and we think, wow, this guy or girl must have been really smart. They must have had a great career. I'll never be able to be in their shoes or do what they did because of whatever the circumstances. Well, I'd like to tell you how I got from this picture on the left to the picture on the right. I thought it was interesting. In the picture on the left, on my left, you're this one in the blues. There's a first sergeant in the background. You can kind of barely see him, but he has a look on his face like, yeah, I don't think this guy's going to amount to much. And he had good reason to believe that at the time, because when I was a young airman, I tell you, I was a menace to society. I like to drink, I like to fight, I like to show up to work late, and I don't mean a few minutes late, I mean a couple of hours late. I like to whine, I like to complain, I like to do all the things except what I was supposed to be doing as a young airman. But I had a great mentor whose attitude and whose example helped me get to where I am today. And so I can't speak enough about the importance of great leaders with great attitudes and the importance that they can have on changing your career around. Now, I think it's also important because, again, even after I got to a point where I said, okay, let me do a 180 and get my life together, I stopped receiving letters of reprimand, letters of admonishment, letters of counseling, and all the other forms of paperwork that I typically got. I started coming to work on time and doing some of the other things. Even after that, I didn't have a stellar career. I still have some bumps in the road. So don't ever think that you can't reach and become the leader that you aspire to be just because you've had a few bumps in the road. It happens to most of us. I saw a lot of chiefs on my way into the auditorium this morning. And one thing I can tell you about most of the chiefs in our Air Force, because I get an opportunity to evaluate many of them and their records, is many of them have Article 15s and many of them have the same stack of paperwork that I got, and they still made it to where they are today. So don't ever think that you can't be a great leader in our Air Force because you make just a few mistakes. I'd also like to share really quickly my leadership philosophy. So it took me a while, so many years from the time that I was a young staff sergeant in the early 1990s until today, I'm always refining how I approach leadership, how I go about leading others. Very simple philosophy for me. First and foremost, man, I set high standards. If you don't work for me, you want to be around me, you have to excel. The way you look, the way you dress, the way you speak, the way we deal with customers, the way we deal with our joint partners and what have you. I always make the standards up here, very high. You don't get a free pass. And then I worked really hard in all of these leadership courses and all of this experience and all of the things that I've learned over the years to motivate, to encourage, to inspire. Sometimes I have to kick and fight and punch and choke to get people to rise up to these standards. Because not everybody wants to. Not everybody wants to be great every single day. But I think I owe it to them as a leader to get them moving in that right direction. That's the most difficult and most challenging part because it doesn't happen overnight. But the most important component of my leadership philosophy is, man, I have to lead by example. And I heard General Wilson mention that this morning. I don't get to say, hey, standards are high, I need you guys to be here at work at 7 o'clock, but I have a lot of meetings and have to drink a lot of coffee, and you guys don't understand what it means to be the Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force, so I'll be here around 10. No. I want you to excel in fitness and all these other things, but hey, you don't understand, I'm so busy, I travel a lot, so I'm just gonna do just enough to get by. Absolutely not. So whatever your leadership philosophy is, I want you to think about it and continue to refine it. I'm continuing to refine mine. I'm an avid reader of leadership and podcasts and all those things, so I'm always trying to be the best leader that I can be and display that attitude so that the people around me can be inspired. Now, when it comes to leadership, most of us, we focus on all the people around us, the bad boss that we have, the bad people that work for us, the environment and the situation and all these other things. We focus on everything except what? Ourselves. In your quest to become a great leader, you're your greatest competition. If you're good enough, you'll change the environment, you'll change the culture, you'll make a difference in the situation. You'll even, to some extent, change the people around them. You might motivate, encourage, and inspire them and what have you. But there's no better place to start being a great leader than right here. This is about you. And I don't mean in a selfish way. But what you really should be thinking about in this leadership quest, this leadership journey, how can I become a better version of me? So let's talk about some keys to success on your leadership journey. First one, no secret, this is the National Character and Leadership Symposium. Why don't we start with character? This has to be the foundation of being great leaders. And let's not confuse character with personality. Personality is what's on the outside, what everybody sees. Oh man, look at Chief Wright. He's always smiling. He loves his airmen, and he loves being in front of crowds and delivering these speeches. And deep down, I might be saying, man, this sucks. I'm so tired of giving these speeches. Character is what's on the inside. Who are you? What do you stand for? What's your personal ethos? What values do you display? Where do you stand? Integrity, service, excellence, honesty, trustworthiness. I tell you, if you want to be a successful leader, it has to begin there. We lose a lot of leaders. We just lost one yesterday. Colonels, chiefs, general officers, airmen, and everything in between. But I want to focus on our senior leaders. And you know how many of them we lose because of incompetence? Because they don't know enough? Because they're not trained well enough? Zero. Zilch. None. You know how many we lose because of character flaws and character issues? Almost all of them. So I can't overemphasize the importance of, if you want to be a leader, if you want to lead by example, character has to be the foundation. Then you got to have a great attitude. Who wants to follow somebody with a bad attitude? Yeah, life sucks. And sometimes being in a leadership position, it sucks. But your job is to make sure that you can keep the people that work for you and around you focused. And one way to do that is to maintain a positive attitude, a positive outlook on life. This will take you a long way. I was telling the cadets last night, I haven't always had the opportunity to hire my own staff, but I do now. So I have a staff of about 7, sometimes 8 people that work in our front office. I have a few of them that's here with me today. And when you get to this level of leadership, everybody's talented. What I'm looking for, attitude. Who has the positive attitude? Who can deal with the challenges of being in the senior level positions? So again, never underestimate the importance of having a positive attitude as a leader. Think for a minute. Anybody you know in this world, whether you know them personally, and I don't know any of them personally, obviously, except the chief of staff, my boss. Someone you know personally, someone that's famous, someone that you admire. I want you to ask yourself, do you think they became great leaders? Do you think they became successful by being undisciplined? You think people have to wake them up first thing in the morning? You think people have to tell them to work out, to eat right, to be on time? No, I don't think so. So if you want to be a great leader, you have to be disciplined. And for those of you, I know we have some cadets here, and I know we have some folks that are in other schools and whatnot. Sometimes when you're in an organization like this, USAFA or whatever school that you may be attending, and for our enlisted airmen, when you're in BMT and tech training, the discipline is built in. Somebody tells you where to go, when to do it, when to study, when to wake up, when to shave, when to eat, when not to eat, when to go to bed, all that good stuff. But as you approach your leadership journey, nobody's going to tell you that. It's really up to you. And so you have to be disciplined in and it starts with every single day. What time do you wake up? What routines do you have first thing in the morning? How do you organize your day? So discipline is key. I'd like you to do something for me. I'd like you to eliminate this phrase from first I want you to eliminate it from your mind. Then I want you to eliminate it from your vocabulary. And then I think you'll be successful in eliminating it from your day-to-day actions. That's good enough. Ask yourself, how often, either consciously or subconsciously, do you think when you are given a task, when you're supposed to accomplish something, when your wife or your husband asks you to wash the dishes or what have you, do you say to yourself, you kind of halfway do it and then you think, you know what, I got to watch the game. That's good enough. What I want you to replace it with is, hey, how about wake up every day and think to yourself, how can I be great today? How can I become the best version of me? Aristotle said, excellence is not a singular act, but it is a habit. We are what we do repeatedly. Now, a famous admiral at a famous service academy that happens to be in Annapolis, he told a very famous story, and then he wrote a book about this idea of making your bed. You familiar? You wake up every day, you make your bed, and you start off right there with a victory. Well, I happen to wake up at 5 o'clock. My wife wakes up a little bit later than me, so I don't get to make my bed and have that victory. I've tried. I tried to make it up with her in it, and it just didn't work out. But I really liked his philosophy so much, I said, okay, what else can I do to symbolize starting my day off with a bit of excellence? So every single day, without fail, to include Saturday and Sunday when I'm not working, I wake up and I shave my face with a straight razor, and then I shave my head with a different kind of razor every day. Now, for those of you, and I see a lot of bald head guys in here, for those of you who shave, whether it's your face or your head, you kind of understand that once you finish, especially, when I shave my face, I have to mix up with the little brush and stuff. So there's shaving cream and toothpaste and crap all everywhere, over the mirror, all over the sink, and so on and so forth. And what I used to do is tell myself, if I don't clean this sink off, my wife is going to kill me. So I would wipe it off a little bit, and this and that. There'd still be a little bit of dots on the mirror, shaving cream here or there. And then I say, but I got to get to work because I got to be the right example, and I got to be on time, and so on and so forth. So those 5 little dots or those 3 little hairs, that's good enough. No, it's not. Today, without fail, I will not leave my house. I will not leave this lodging room that I'm staying in without the sink being spick and span. It is my way of starting every single day saying to myself, Kaleth, you'll be great today. There is no good enough. So think about how you can practice excellence as part of who you are every single day as a leader, because that's what your airmen, that's what your employees expect of you. Man, none of us can go it alone. If you want to be a great leader, you got to be a part of something bigger than yourself. One of my favorite African proverbs. You want to go fast, go alone. You want to go far, go together. This is a picture of myself and all of our MAJCOM command chiefs, my peers. And it's just an indication of how tight we are, how much fun we have. We're at my house for a 12 Outstanding Airmen of the Year celebration. And I know we have some of our 12 Outstanding Airmen here with us today, and we'll get a chance to speak with them tomorrow. And I really do lean and depend on them to help me manage all of the enlisted programs in our United States Air Force. I receive much of the credit as being the face of the enlisted force, the enlisted Jesus memes and all that other stuff. And I appreciate it, I do. I'm very thankful for the support. But I could not do what I do without the folks in my office, the ones that I pointed out earlier that are here, and without my teammates, the fellow senior chief master sergeants in our United States Air Force. Who are your wingmen? Who are your teammates? Who helps you get it done? Just a few other thoughts. Man, as a leader, you're responsible for speaking truth to power. You won't always agree with your boss. You won't always agree with the direction. You won't always agree with the direction that your organization might be going. And there are times when you have a responsibility as a leader to speak up. But I want you to take this responsibility very seriously and be very careful with how you do this. This is not a free ticket to say whatever you want whenever you want. This is not a ticket to every time you disagree to say, well, wait a minute, boss, I don't think we need to do this. In this life, we all get 2 butts. And I learned this from a great leader who was a mentor and supervisor of mine, Alex Perry. You get 2 butts. Well, hey, Chief, you know, I think we need to roll out and do this. But, sir, I think if we do that, the airmen are not going to be happy, and it's going to have an adverse impact on morale. Now, I have one more but, sir, before I have to salute smartly and move out. And so I need to make sure that before I continue to push back, I really understand, hey, what are the consequences? What am I fighting for? Is this worth falling on the sword for? And it very well may be. But you quickly start to lose credibility when you fall on the sword for every single thing. So be careful how you approach this speaking truth to power. Man, probably one of the more important aspects of leadership. Most successful people, most great leaders have a very high level of emotional intelligence. And it's really really, and I don't know how much you've studied it, but I would encourage you to study emotional intelligence. It's really kind of broken into two components: a personal component, your ability to recognize your own emotions, how upset you get or what the emotions that happen when you encounter certain things or when you talk to certain people, and then your ability to control your emotions. And then a social component, your ability to recognize when you get on other people's nerves, basically, and then manage those relationships accordingly. How many of you yourselves, or how many of you have worked for leaders who fly off the handle at everything, who get gravely upset about everything? There's a time to show some emotion. There's a time to show some passion. There's a time to let people know, hey, I'm serious about this. There's also a time to show how excited you are about someone's success or what have you. But by and large, if you want to be respected, if you want to be a great leader, you have to make sure you understand and practice good emotional intelligence. Man, as a leader, right now, physically, yes, I'm on stage. But when you're a leader, you're always on stage. People are always watching. And now with the advent of technology and social media, and so particularly at the opportunities when you have to, whether it's on a stage like this in front of 1,000 people, or when you stand up in your office in front of 7 people, the one thing you have to have is you have to be credible. People have to trust you. They have to believe in you. And if you want to be credible, man, you got to deliver. You have to be transparent. When you have a credibility gap, it'll show. And your ability to motivate, encourage, and inspire airmen, it will continue to be diminished. Some people believe that once you lose your credibility, you can't get it back. I don't necessarily subscribe to that. I think that there are times when you lose your credibility for whatever reason. I think if you continue to do these things, make the tough calls, be consistent, lead by example, be transparent, you can reestablish your credibility as a leader. Kind of glad my wife Tanya is not here, because she always gets on me when I talk about this. I used to call it work-life balance, like everybody else in the world, right? It's not like I made it up. Now I refer to it more as harmony. This is a tough thing. This is a tough thing, and I know we have a lot of general officers and retired general officers and senior leaders in the room today that most of us struggle with this. How to maintain that work-life harmony. I've tried and talked about the 2-10-5-7, 2 hours for yourself in the morning, 10 hours of work, 5 hours unplugged, 7 hours of sleep. I can get the 2 and the 10 right. The rest of it is out the window for me. I don't think I can ever, and I don't think most leaders would agree that when you talk about work-life balance, you kind of have this picture of the scales, that, hey, I'll get as much time at home with my family as I will at work. And typically it doesn't work that way. What I try to do now to maintain harmony with me and my wife is, I really try to plan out and look at the calendar. This week, going for 3 or 4 days. I'll land on Friday, and then I'll be back out. I think I testify next week, and then I'll be back on the road next Tuesday or Wednesday. So guess what you think I'll be doing this weekend? I'll be cleaning the house, I'll be washing the dishes, I'll be doing all the things my wife wants me to do, and then I'm going to take her out on a nice date. And then I'll be on the road for a couple of weeks, and when we do have the time together, I try to take advantage of it. You have to figure out what works best for you, but this is something that's extremely important. In order for you to become the best version of yourself, to become the best leader that you can, you need some work-life harmony, and there's a couple of tips. what about this whole social media thing as a leader? Should you not? Should you use social media? I decided to use social media as a means of communicating with all of the airmen across the Air Force. And we've had, I would say, some pretty good success. Getting the word out for various changes. When we had not the first government shutdown, but the government shutdown, I think it was around last August or so, my team and I were full up on social media, trying to answer as many questions as we can. This is a place where I get to highlight many of our airmen and the things that we're doing, and just an overall way of communicating. The only advice that I will give to you as a leader when it comes to social media is you got to be in or out, right? So this is not like, so I have a professional Facebook page and an Instagram, and then I have a personal Facebook page. On my personal Facebook page, I can post whenever I feel like it. So sometimes I might post something today. I might go 3 or 4 weeks before you see another cigar or glass of scotch or whatever I might be doing round of golf. But if you're going to use this as a means to communicate with your team, you got to be in, and you got to have relevant content. And frankly, unless you're a public affairs professional or someone that's really good with this, you got to have somebody on your team that can do this and help you, that can do this for you or help you with this type of stuff. But I tell you, it is an incredible way to communicate with the folks that you serve. And again, it's worked well for me. I tell you what, if you don't remember anything we talk about today, I want you to remember this. Being a leader is hard, it's demanding, it's time consuming. Most of you spend your entire adult lives taking care of your airmen, your soldiers, your sailors, your Marines, your employees, your teammates, your bosses. All of your efforts and all of your focus is on other people, because that's what is demanded of us as leaders. And we spend very little time taking care of us because we think it's selfish. I never paid attention to, and please don't be offended if you're here and you're a flight attendant, but I never paid attention to flight attendants as much as I've been on airplanes in my entire life. When I sit down on an airplane, I put my headphones on, or I pretend like I'm getting ready to read a book or whatever it is that I'm going to do before I fall asleep, normally before we take off. But recently, I started paying attention. And after the flight attendant shows me how to put my seatbelt on and actually how to take it off, very good information, he or she says, hey, if this cabin loses pressure, a mask will drop down and you must do what? Put your mask on first. Why does she say that? He or she says that because exactly right. If you don't take care of yourself, you won't be able to take care of your son, your daughter, your wife, your husband, your neighbor, or whoever that's sitting next to you. And I would say the same thing for all of you as leaders. If you don't take care of you, how are you going to take care of them? If you don't make sure that you're physically, mentally, spiritually fit, that you have a strong social circle, how are you going to take care of everybody else? I spent the first year in this job traveling around the United States Air Force. General Wilson and I did a huge trip to the AOR and visited our folks. I think I did about 285 days. And the whole time I was saying to myself, I was making these excuses. Well, I'm kind of busy. I'm traveling a lot. I don't really have time to go to the gym. I would eat right, but all we got here is these donuts and all this other stuff, so I'll just eat that, no problem. Now, I haven't been sick. I'm a G, I don't get sick. I haven't been sick since like 1971. I was born in 1970. I don't get sick. Until last year. Man, I just hit a wall. because I wasn't putting my mask on first. I wasn't taking care of me. Had to take 2 days off of work, laid up. And it was at that point that I decided, you know, I'm going to make time to go to the gym every day. My wife and I, we swung the pendulum all the way. And we went and we became vegans for 2 weeks. Man, that's hard, man. And then we became vegetarians for 2 months. And then we became pescatarians. And that lasted. So we still eat fish. But I mean, I really realized that, man, in order for me to take care of the almost 500,000 enlisted airmen, total force airmen that we have in the Air Force, I got to be in shape. I got to have energy at the right time. I got to have my stuff together spiritually, mentally. I have to put my mask on first, and I have to take care of me. So if you don't remember anything from today's conversation, put your mask on first. What questions do you have for me?
What inspired you to change from that young airman who was kind of screwing up to become the leader?
So she asked, what inspired me to change from the young airman who was screwing up? This is exactly what she said. When I was a senior airman, so I had a little bit more than 3 years in the United States Air Force, my mentor, Joe Wimbush, he gave me a piece of paper and he said, hey, I need you to go over and join the base honor guard. I gave him the paper back and said, not my style, not into the military like that, I'll pass. He gave it back to me along with some choice words that I dare not use here at USAFA. And so anyway, I joined the base honor guard, and I thought to myself, man, this is pretty nice. So I'm doing all these ceremonies, and more importantly, I'm doing a lot of funerals. I was stationed at Pope Air Force Base in North Carolina, and so we had an area of North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia we were responsible for doing these funerals. So I finally got to work my way up to be the person who presented the flag to the next of kin. And I was presenting a flag to this lady, didn't know her from Adam. I was just there to make sure that, you know, the shots went off at the 21 gun salute and the flag was folded, no red showing, all that good stuff. Well, I knelt down, I made this statement on behalf of the President of the United States, this grateful nation. We present you this flag on behalf of your spouse's honorable service, so on and so forth. And she had tears in her eyes. And I could see how much she appreciated, you know, what we were doing. It was a spring in North Carolina. There was pollen, and my eyes started watering. And I said to myself, at that very moment, Kaleth, you have to get your act together. You have to take your career more serious. And that started the 180. I had a lot more bumps along the way, but that was the moment I decided, you know what, I'm going to be somebody. I didn't think it would be this, but that was the beginning of my turnaround.
If you had one key to staying dedicated, what would it be?
One key to staying dedicated is, man, find your purpose. Figure out why you wake up every day. Figure out, you know, why you're on this earth. My favorite book is The Alchemist by author Paulo Coelho. And he says that once you discover it, he refers to it as personal legend, loosely means your purpose in life. The entire universe conspires to help you achieve it. And so what keeps me committed and dedicated is I understand my purpose, that I'm here to help others, to inspire others, to help others discover their purpose and help put them on a path to be successful. So if you can figure out why you're here, you can stay committed to it.
Thank you.
So Chief Wright, Cadet Martis, 159th Cadet Wing, University of Central Florida. You said when we make these changes, how do we continue to evaluate ourselves and our team, and how do we know that these are the right changes that we've made to benefit ourselves in the long run?
Yeah, so you talked about when you make changes in yourself and your leadership style and your personality and whatnot?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. Ask for feedback. Real simple. Ask for feedback and keep your mouth closed when you're receiving it. Because most time, we as leaders, we say, hey, give me some feedback. How am I doing? Well, you always cut me off. Well, that's because, we don't have that. Right? And then we start making up every excuse for why we da-da-da. I think you should just say, hey, I'm on a quest to become a better leader. And I'm trying, I heard these things that Chief Wright and all these other great speakers talked about at this conference that I went to, and I'm trying to be better. And so over the next couple of weeks, if you don't mind, if you could take some notes and give me some feedback on how well I'm doing. And when they give you feedback, good, bad, indifferent, just say this: thank you. Work on the things that you agree with, that you think you need to work on, and continue to get better at. The ones you don't agree with, no harm, no foul. Let it wash off your back. But I would just ask for feedback, and that. Your folks will let you know whether you're doing good or not.
Thank you, Chief.
Morning, sir. C1C Monica Mama, Squadron 27. Thank you for coming and sharing everything with us today. I truly believe that when it comes to discipline as a fighter and former boxer here at the Air Force Academy, that truly when you do step in the ring, there's no such thing as good enough unless you want to get knocked out. And I really think that pertains to taking care of our airmen, like you've mentioned, and staying disciplined. And so my question for you is very simple, and it pertains to this brown book here. And I was just wondering if you could sign it for me.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
Good morning, sir. Cadet Kim from Detachment 60. My question is, could you give us an example of a hard decision you had to make as a leader?
Of the many hard decisions, let me see, what's a good one? My very first airman that I supervised, I was a young staff sergeant, and he had some normal problems, much like the problems that I had. Nothing really too bad. And then he made a really big mistake. He got a DUI. Now, deep down, I knew he was a great airman. And oh, by the way, he had my last name too, right? Very first airman right off the bat with my last name, everybody associated with me. And I knew he was a great airman deep down inside, but he made this what I would consider a pretty huge mistake. He was really drunk and really could have killed someone. And my first sergeant and the commander, we sat down to try to determine, hey, what should we do with this guy? Should we let him stay in the Air Force? Should we separate him? How should this work? And it was a really tough decision for me because I felt like with a little more time, I could work on him. I can get him to where he needed to be. But deep down, I thought, I don't think he's going to change. And so I made the decision along with the first sergeant and commander, because they depended on me to help them make this decision, to separate him from the Air Force. So kind of right off the bat, I started off as a failure in my mind as a leader. But that was a really tough decision that I had to help my commander make.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. I'm listening.
Good morning, Chief. Airman First Class Wenzel. My question is, how did you find the motivation to consistently be resilient even through all the hardships that you faced?
Yeah. Some of it was because, like I mentioned earlier, I decided when I was a senior airman I was going to be someone, so I always had a goal. I decided when I was a senior airman that I was going to be a chief, so I always had a goal. So whenever I met some type of barrier, whenever I did something stupid, which I did quite often, I would fall down, and then I would say to myself, but man, you got to get to, remember you said you were going to be a chief, so you got to get back up. But I tell you what was probably most impactful, what really helped me out the most was, man, I had great people around me. I had great wingmen, I had great teammates, I had a great mentor who told me the truth, who told me about myself. I'll give you a good example. Ma'am, can I pick this up? Can you pick this up after we finish? Yeah. I'll give you a good example. When I was a senior master sergeant, I worked for this chief, and I didn't like her. And so I cursed her out, right? So I was a senior master sergeant, she was chief master sergeant. She was trying to give me some advice and guidance and mentorship and all that type of stuff. And well, it wasn't polite, but I basically said to her, you know what? I reject this counseling. Don't want it, don't need it, and get the blah, 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 blah. And so I got a bad EPR and all this other stuff, got in some trouble. And so I was kind of down in the dumps because at this point I thought my career was over. But a senior airman, his name is Damon Stokes, walked into my office and he said, hey, Sarge, can I tell you something? I think you're a hypocrite. You're always talking to us about see it through, be strong, you know, work through your problems, keep fighting. Now you're going through something and you're quitting on us. So I said, hey man, get the hell out of my office. And then I went home that night and I said, man, this guy's right? And had it not been for him, I think I would have just quit. I mean, so that was a pretty defining moment. So help resilience for me earlier in my career was really having great people around me to help me work through the tough times. And now making sure that I stay physically, mentally fit is really helpful. I do a lot of meditating and things of that nature. Yes, sir.
Hi, Chief. Mike Tillman, class of 73. Let's hear it, guys. Hey, I really appreciate your comments about it's good advice, the two butts.
Right.
Not where I thought you were going, but anyway. You're in a position now where you probably get some, hey, Chief, that's a great idea, but probably from those guys that were lying on your couch and other people. Can you give maybe some ideas of how you handle that when that comes to you? And is there maybe an example of a time it actually changed your mind and you thought you had a great idea and it turned out to not be so great?
Yes, sir. So with them, one, I really see us as a team, and of all of the changes and all of the things that we try to do, I try not to be emotionally tied to any of them. We just recently changed how we promote our senior non-commissioned officers. So since 1972, senior non-commissioned officers have been taking what we call a WAPS test, a weighted airman promotion system, and I felt like it was time to change. Many of those guys on the couch and the guys and girls on the couch, they didn't think it was the best idea. And so, they use their 2 butts and 4 or 5 and 6 and 7 more. I mean, we were just wearing each other down trying to get to the right thing. And the entire time I tried to keep the emotion out of it and say, hey, what's best for our senior non-commissioned officers in the United States Air Force? And then we ultimately finally got to the right decision. Something I actually learned from Jeff Bezos when he came to speak to us. Hey, let's just disagree and commit. So we still have varying thoughts about whether it's the right decision or not. When I was a wing command chief, I thought it was going to be a great idea. Hey, I think we should do in-person boards for our below the zone, senior and below the zone program. And I was sold on it. I had seen it before. I came from Kadena. I know it works. And the maintenance chief kind of convinced me that, yeah, it might have worked there, but it won't work here because, our folks are always TDY. They won't have a fair chance and so on and so forth. And so he changed my mind. And so I'm pretty flexible and pretty open. There are some things I'm passionate about that I'll kind of stick to, but most things, if you give me the data, I'm very objective, and I'll allow the data and what's best for our service to prevail.
We have time for one more question.
We'll make it 2. We'll make it 2. I know you've been standing there. Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. Thank you very much for coming out today. My question to you is, as a leader, you are in charge of the well-being of your team, those subordinate to you and those that you consider your peers. What do you recommend to remedy internal conflicts between team members?
Yeah, so I think most of the time when you have internal conflict, it's really based on a lack of understanding. Sometimes it might be a lack of understanding of what our purpose is, what our roles are individually or as an organization. And so the easiest way to improve that is you have to be able to improve the ability of you and your teammates to communicate. So this is not something that's foreign to me or my team that I have now, the larger team of chiefs that I work with. Lots of confusion sometimes. Sometimes we get off kilter in terms of, hey, what are we really trying to get after? And so we've done, in my office, we've done off-sites. We have an off-site coming up to try to improve our ability to communicate with each other, to understand each other, and make sure that we're all kind of singing the same song, marching to the same beat. But
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Last question.
Morning, Chief. Cadet Second Class Mahi Lyons, Cadet Squadron 37. So my question is actually going to piggyback off that. Oftentimes here at the Academy and as well as in the Air Force, we're racked and stacked against each other, like we're pitted against each other for promotions or for AFSCs. So my question is regarding like, how do you build that team and how did you get like your team to be so cohesive?
Yeah, so, you know, I think healthy competition, right? And if you watch the movie play out, Remember the Titans, you'll kind of see how healthy competition actually drives the performance of the entire organization up. And that's what we attempt to do in our United States Air Force. May not always be successful. I mean, I've heard people talk about, hey, being in the Air Force sometimes is like the Hunger Games where, you know, everybody's trying to fight for their own survival and you know, and I don't disagree and whatnot. But I think if you can help people understand, hey, this is why we're here, this is what we're trying to do, you add in the healthy competition so that we all grow. There's room for all of us to be successful. And I'm not saying that everybody can be a colonel or a general or a chief or what have you. Obviously, there's limitations to that. But that doesn't necessarily define success either. And so I think if we all understand, not every officer in the Air Force wants to be a general. Not every airman, not every enlisted airman wants to be a chief. So if we can collectively define, hey, what does success mean for our organization, and balance that against, hey, what does success mean for me as an individual, then the healthy competition can really be good at helping, assisting the entire organization reach whatever goals that we have set for ourselves.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, so remember, attitude reflects leadership. If you hadn't had an opportunity to check out Remember the Titans, please do. Thank you so much for inviting me and my team here. I'm looking forward to the rest of the symposium. And if you have any additional questions, I'll be around for the next couple of days. So thank you.
Chief Wright, thank you again. On behalf of our 2019 NCLS participants, the Cadet Wing, and the faculty and staff of the United States Air Force Academy, we would like to present you with a small token of appreciation. Once again, we extend our thanks to our supporter, the class of 1959, 1973, 1974, 1993, the Association of Graduates, the USAFA Endowment, the Falcon Foundation, and all others who, through their generosity, make NCLS possible. This concludes this session, and have a great day.